Earth is flat or round?
I believe it's round.
And I do too.
Me too. I'm also.
And I thought that we were all decided on that. But we got a phone call the other day. You may have heard it, and it sounded like this. Hey, Shauna in Hudson.
Hi.
Hey, so you know smart people who believe the world is flat?
I do. I'm not the expert. My boyfriend is the expert. He spends all his time researching.
So wait, does your boyfriend believe the world is flat?
Yes, and so do I.
Wait a minute, you do too?
I do.
So Emily, that was a call from our listener Shauna, who said that she does believe, and her boyfriend is an expert, that the world is flat. And the boyfriend has called back to explain this to us so we can understand.
No way.
Yeah. So Emily, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much for listening to our show. Let's say hello to Chris. Put him live on the air. Hey, Chris.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
So you're in New Hampshire, and you really believe the world is flat?
Trust me, I didn't take lightly to this. But yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So now your girlfriend who called the other day, we were remarking about how normal she sounded on the show, because normally when you hear someone screaming about how the earth is flat, there's a guy in Harvard Square, like producer Matt ran into, who's screaming at the top of his lungs that we're all crazy and we're being lied to by the government and everything. And I was sort of alarmed that, and now same with you, that you sound like you're fairly normal people. So my question is, where is the debate? Because to me it all seems to add up that the earth is round, and I feel like this is something we figured out years ago.
Right.
Well, that's pretty much what the general consensus is. I totally understand that. But I want to know what exactly makes you believe that it's a globe. Is there anything in particular, or just that you were taught that?
Science, like the things we were taught in school, really.
In all fairness, Chris, I've never actually been to outer space myself, but it makes sense that when you get into a plane and you fly to, say, London,
right,
if you keep flying in that direction, you're going to hit the next part of the world, and then if you go all the way around, it comes back to the beginning.
It doesn't just end.
Right, I would think...
Circumnavigation.
Right, well, so I would think that if the world was flat, you'd eventually just hit a wall.
Or something.
Or just fall off the end of the earth, which I think they started debating in the 1500s. Someone said the world is flat. They had this debate, and then a guy named, is it Ferdinand Magellan?
Magellan, yeah, he's the first one to circumnavigate the world.
Right, and so we've heard about people who have flown around the world, like the first woman to fly around the world. So why would they be lying to us? And how does that work if the world is flat?
So there are a couple different models. Not all the flat earthers believe the same model, but one basic model that explains all of that is the Gleason model. And it's going to be really hard to explain verbally. You're going to have to see some visuals. Okay. It's going to take some research.
So I need a slideshow to really understand this.
Either that or a short clip animation. I mean, it's going to take a little bit more than a conversation for you to understand that.
Right. Now, is there a YouTube channel where like there are professional people who know how to explain the world is flat, and we can watch that?
If you just type in Flat Earth Explained, you'll find a plethora of information and alternate views and alternate models.
Right.
The Gleason's model is one of them. It basically states that the North Pole is right in the center. The Earth is a flat plane. So there's a circle around the outer edges of an ice wall over 50 to 100 feet tall. It's Antarctica. And then it encompasses the entire Earth.
See, now you start saying all this stuff, and your average person wouldn't really know what you're talking about. I've heard theories that you're not allowed to go to Antarctica, and this is part of...
Well, that's not a theory. That's fact. It's the Antarctic Treaty. Every developed nation in the world, every nation that has a boat is in this treaty. It's over 50 nations. And
so you can't go to Antarctica because apparently that's where the big answers lie.
Oh, yeah. You are not allowed to go there private. There's no private travel there.
Right, but don't you think there are enough scientists to say, okay, listen, I want to prove this once and for all, and I'm going to go. And don't you think that all scientists can't be corrupt? Like, there's got to be some good ones in there.
The ones that aren't in the government's pocket are not being allowed access to this kind of stuff.
So wait, so you're saying the government knows which scientists are for them and which ones are against them?
Oh yeah, the scientific community they rely heavily on government funding.
All right, so then here's another theory. Let's say, like you, for example, you wanted to disprove the government. Why wouldn't you go undercover as someone who's with the government?
It's guarded. they have the entire Antarctic coastline guarded. All these countries also have to agree to help guard.
But right,
And
but
if we tried to go, we would be stopped by gunpoint.
But hold on, but let's just say, okay, from the 1500s where this flat earth debate started, let's just say at some point between then and now, there had to at least be one scientist to say, you know what, I'm going to be the one to prove this, so I'm going to go undercover. And they go through the whole training. It's like you see in the movies, they get training to be in the government. All the while, they know at the end, they're going to be the one to prove that this is wrong and that the government's lying to us. Why hasn't anyone done that in over 500 years?
There actually are a few of them. I don't know all of their names off the top of my head, but there are prominent explorers that have basically sailed around following the ice wall in Antarctica and went over 60,000 miles documented and ended up back where he started and never found an inlet to the wall. So we know the dimensions of the globe, or what they tell us.
See, this sounds like something you'd hear from Uncle Donnie over Christmas dinner. Like everybody's having a good time, and then all of a sudden he goes, you know, I know something, and I don't want to tell you, but I'm going to have to tell you now.
Yeah.
So it is a tough sell. And I'm all about conspiracies. I mean, you know that, Lauren.
Yeah, TJ is the #1 conspiracy theorist that I know.
I questioned the prices on plums at the grocery store because I go, hey, it's a little soft for that price. And so I'm a guy who's usually willing to at least imagine that something could be true like this. This just seems so unbelievable to me.
Right.
It's hard for me to even give it a chance.
I have a question. Do you work if you don't want to say what you do for a living, that's fine, but do you work in the scientific field or something?
No. I work in a legal field. I'm just an enthusiast for science. Trust me, like I said earlier, this did not come easily. I was a total NASA and space fanboy. I didn't want this to be true. But once you start diving in and finding out the research and the information that's out there, which I can give you a couple things right now
I'd love to see
that will help you examine the globe.
I guess what concerns me is that you can find anything on the internet to support whatever your theory is, regardless whether we're talking about science or
I'm talking hard evidence.
Hard evidence, but
there's hard evidence.
There's a thing called, like Lauren's saying, called confirmation bias, where you could think anything. Like, for example,
regardless of what side you're on.
I've stubbed my toe in my living room before, and I go, oh my gosh, I just got some sort of an infectious disease in the little cut that I had on my toe.
Yes.
Well, I will search that on Google, and I guarantee you there will be an article that proves that I am going to lose my foot within the next 3 weeks.
Yeah,
it happens every time.
Right, and that's my concern, that regardless of what you believe, you will be able to find evidence that supports that on both sides.
All right, hold on one second, Chris. We're getting a phone call from a science teacher. Her name is Kelly. Kelly, have you and your kind been lying to me all these years?
No, of course not. Honestly, it's a constant topic we teach in middle school science. I'm a 6th grade middle school science teacher. I have my bachelor's in biology. And I want to refute the fact that you can't take a private tour to Antarctica, because I know someone who has, and if you Google it, like Flat Earth, there are several expeditions you can take to Antarctica to see penguins.
Yeah, what about the penguins, Chris?
Chris, they're around $20,000, and it's a guided tour. You will have a tour guide. You will not be able to explore privately. If you look up the Antarctic Treaty, you can find the government source and read the Antarctic Treaty. It's very clear that you're not to go there without guidance and without permission from all of the parties of that treaty.
Chris, now let me ask you this. Are the penguins robotic? This is a serious question.
It's possible. You never know.
So you think that there's a chance some of those penguins are not actual penguins?
No, I think they're pretty real. Cute little things.
See, that's a flaw in the theory.
I, too, have another question. Why does it matter? Why do we care? Does it matter at all?
Chris, I could take this one. Yeah, if it was true that the government was lying to us and the Earth was flat, that would be weird.
But
I'll give you that, Chris.
How does that affect our day-to-day lives, is my question. Why does that make a difference?
Well, first off...
You question a lot of things, right, Chris? I understand that.
Another point.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Another point I can make is that it wouldn't make sense for tides to work the way they do, because that pull from the moon requires the Earth to be a sphere. So you wouldn't see tides occur the way they do if the Earth was flat.
Kelly, thank you very much for the information. A science teacher there in middle school. The debate rages on. Jamie in Jamaica Plain just called. She said that her friend's grandma took a trip to Antarctica. Well, if a grandma can go to go to Antarctica.
I guess, but again, who was her tour guide, I guess, is our question.
Chris, listen, I wanted you to speak your piece. What I will do is I will Google it, and I will go on YouTube, and I'll try and find the channel you're talking about.
Well, there's a couple facts I want you to know of, and like, these
haven't we heard them, though? Haven't we heard more than a few?
Have you heard that the moonlight is colder than the moon shade? So it literally cannot be reflecting the sun. The moon, if you measure moonlight with an infrared thermometer, it will measure several degrees colder than any object outside of that moonlight.
Okay, where do I get an infrared thermometer? Do they sell those at Walmart?
You can buy them $6 on eBay.
Oh, really? And that in lies the answer
Guys.
about the Earth being round or flat. I didn't know that you could do that for $6.
It's a cold negative light. Also, the science says that the Earth curves at 8 inches per mile squared. The curvature is nowhere to be found. There's long distance photography in the world. World records, there's photography 275 miles. The 8 inches per mile squared, this kind of photography and seeing objects this far away is impossible.
Well, Chris, listen, I wanted you to speak your piece here. I don't know, like you said in the beginning, it's going to be hard to convince me over this phone call, but I will do the research.
I will. Research flat Earth.
All right, you just
when
can't
you type things in, look at both arguments, both sides.
Chris,
play devil's advocate.
You can't be mad at me if I laugh a little bit.
No, everyone does. I expect that. It's called cognitive dissonance. And it's something that triggers something deep within you whenever your core base of belief is challenged. It triggers a reaction. Some people get emotional. Some people get angry. Some people laugh. Other people say, I need to research that. I'm hoping that's what you guys do.
All right, Chris.
I'm just going to say, I don't care. There's a lot of other things to focus on right now. So
we take all shapes and sizes here at the TJ Show. I know your girlfriend is a listener. Release her at some point, please.
Oh, stop.
No, please tell her we said thank you for listening, and you have a good one, Chris.
Thanks for your time. Have a good one.
Oh,
all right,
thank
you too.
you. I'm done.
Well,
I don't care.
We got all the answers we were looking for. This is AMP Radio.
Earth is flat or round?
I believe it's round.
And I do too.
Me too. I'm also.
And I thought that we were all decided on that. But we got a phone call the other day. You may have heard it, and it sounded like this. Hey, Shauna in Hudson.
Hi.
Hey, so you know smart people who believe the world is flat?
I do. I'm not the expert. My boyfriend is the expert. He spends all his time researching.
So wait, does your boyfriend believe the world is flat?
Yes, and so do I.
Wait a minute, you do too?
I do.
So, Emily, that was a call from our listener, Shauna, who said that she does believe, and her boyfriend is an expert, that the world is flat. And the boyfriend has called back to explain this to us so we can understand.
No way.
Yeah. So, Emily, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much for listening to our show. Let's say hello to Chris. Put him live on the air. Hey, Chris.
Hi. How's it going, guys?
So you're in New Hampshire, and you really believe the world is flat?
Trust me, I didn't take lightly to this. But yes, absolutely.
So, now, your girlfriend who called the other day, we were